Welcome to the Know Your Rights Camp podcast, and my name is Alicia P., and I have been a volunteer with the Know Your Rights Camp since 2017. On my day-to-day, I am a creative producer, I'm a director, and I'm also a podcaster. And to my right, we have Karl Ferguson.
Hi, my name is Karl. I've been a volunteer with the camp since 2017 as well. So by day, I am a celebrity portrait photographer, work with many magazine outlets and so forth, as well as a power plant technician for a phone company in New York.
To my left, we have the one and only Dr. Milo Dodson.
Hey.
Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up.
Hey, thanks.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are.
Yes. Peace, family. My name is Dr. Milo Dodson, and I'm a licensed psychologist in the state of California. I've had the honor of volunteering for the camp since 2018. So the Vegas camp is my fourth camp.
Nice. So everyone here, we're well known into the camp. We pour into the camp. That is what we do. We love it on our spare time because we love the kids, we love the message, and we love the people that build this community.
We love each other.
Yes. Which is pretty much what we're going to be talking about today. Loving each other, loving on ourselves, and pretty much one of our rights. You have the right to be safe. We're going to talk about mental wellness. Let's just talk about how you've been since the beginning of the pandemic to where we are today.
Ooh, Lord.
What a question.
What a question. How long do we have for that question? I have been joyful. I have been devastated. I have been heartbroken. I think also uplifted. I also actually happened to get married during the pandemic. So got the hardware.
The hardware.
Anniversary is 12/12/2020.
December 12, that's
2020,
good.
just in case anybody tried to come for me. But to be honest, I think the reality is we've had a full range of emotions. And one of my goals for discussing mental health is to really normalize the full range. Because a lot of times we tend to only talk about, like I said, the joy. We only talk about being happy, or what I often refer to as toxic positivity, right? Like you have to find the silver lining in something. But look, the reality is over these last 2.5 years, we've been through a lot. Going through a pandemic damages our mental health. It damages our physical health, being at home all the time, right? And so I think for me, knowing that our right to be safe and our right to be healthy includes mental health.
Yes.
And centers on mental health for me, because there's no health without mental health.
Probably want to back up just a little bit to just even define what mental health is.
Sure.
Like, what is mental wellness?
Yeah. So mental health is kind of a roadmap of our thoughts leading to feelings, then leading to our actions. So essentially in life, when we're faced with an event or a situation, a pandemic, for an example, right? We have a thought of like, dang, this is never going to end. I don't know where the end is. I don't see an end in sight. So that's just our thought based off of the event. The thoughts that we have then lead to our emotions. I'm feeling anxious because of this uncertainty, right? Sometimes that anxiety leads to positive coping strategies. I'm going to get some physical exercise. I'm going to get some fresh air from being outside. Oftentimes, and for me, to be very honest, sometimes that has led to stress eating. Whole range of food, different types of food, but going to that cabinet a little bit too often. So I think when we define mental health and we define wellness, again, it's kind of this roadmap of an event or a situation, then to a thought that we have, our emotions, and then the actions that we choose to carry out.
Yeah.
Mental health for me has been a bit of a discovery over the last couple of years, and I think Milo, we've spoken before about my personal journey with just even being in therapy. February made 7 years, and it was an avenue that I stumbled upon, and it's I always say it's the best investment I've made in myself. And the interesting thing about the pandemic was, I think this is the first time, I know it's the first time that I came in contact with anxiety. It had never been a thing that I had to cope with, and I was essential during that time. So I didn't have the break of working from home and just being on the train, commuting, all of the different ways to get from point A to point B, and having to deal with that uncertainty of, well, what is this thing that we're facing? It's okay. So it's an illness.
Yeah, I think 2020 was a lot of time for us to self-reflect, right? It's a lot of time for us to pour into ourselves and to understand that mental wellness actually matters. Because for a long time, especially in the Black community, mental wellness was very taboo. I think the next question that I have for the room, and maybe Karl, I can start with you, is when do you feel most safe? How, since being in therapy, and I have been in therapy, we're all in therapy, obviously.
Yes.
I've been right.
Please.
Let's clap for therapy. I've been in therapy myself for about 3.5, going on 4 years. But when do you feel the most safe?
Well, that's layered, because part of what I've had to come to terms with in therapy is the need for control. And I feel most safe when I'm in control of what's going on, but that's not reality. You know, the reality is becoming okay with relinquishing the control and releasing that. And so that's something that, I mean, my answer is layered, because I know when I'm in a safe space and what I feel is a safe space, but I know that it's also me starting to get to a better place of relinquishing control. So right now, I would say it's when I think everything is at ease, mostly my home.
There you go. Right.
I can control most of the elements involved in there. So I think that's honestly, for me, would be home and areas that I can feel like I can control.
How do you feel? What's your safe space?
Man,
what makes you feel safe?
To be honest, I feel most safe when I'm still. Whether that's home, whether that's in nature, whether that's travel somewhere with my wife, I feel safe when I'm still. And I go back to a quote from one of my mentors, Dr. Bill Parham. When I was studying for my licensure exam, I was trying to run all over the place. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling uncertain about if I'm going to pass this exam. And he broke it down in a very, very simple way. He said 2 things. The fastest way to get somewhere is to be still. And so for me, I had equated safety with accomplishment for so long, because I'm like, I need to do these things to feel, as Karl said, to feel in more control, to feel like I got a sense of navigating life. And just instead, I found peace and safety in being still, to just be, to exist, and to not do. The other thing Dr. Parham told me is that if you look at the letters of silent, you mix those around like alphabet soup, you can actually rearrange those to listen. So when you're silent, that allows you to then listen. And when we give ourselves a chance to listen, not just to our loved ones, like I'm trying to do more of as a new husband for sure, but when we can listen to ourselves,
right,
we can hear what we need for ourselves, that's when we feel safe. I feel unsafe, but how do I then move in the direction of more safety, which is often equated to health, like we're talking about too.
Yeah, I think I feel the most safe between the hours of 4 a.m. and like 7 a.m. That is my peace and quiet. I hear myself then.
Wait, so are you asleep during those hours? Or
No. No.
Yeah.
Could you feel safer when you unconscious like that? Yeah, like that's good.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
Unless I'm having nightmares, but no. Like I will wake up at 4 a.m. I've been trying to be very intentional about waking up before the rest of the world, because that's the only time that I get to really fully hear my thoughts without hearing anything else, without hearing an email, without being on social media. So creating my space, my home, to feel safe, but also waking up in the hours of when I can actually hear just my thoughts.
I love that.
Yeah. So I think that's for me. Just being very intentional about that is something that I've been trying to make sure I make a part of my daily routine. It's not easy waking up at 4 a.m. every day now, but I do think it's a necessity. I do think so. I do want to kind of pivot and ask a question, because I think it's really important, especially in the Black community, to talk about Black men being able to communicate or even feel their feelings out loud. And sitting in between 2 men who are both in therapy, what can you share, especially with young children, young men, young boys, that want to feel their emotions but don't feel safe enough to do it in any space because of how they've just grown up in their, you know,
the messages
and in
that
their
we
world.
received.
Yeah.
Want me to take that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh man. All right. So before I was a psychologist, as a young black boy, being told not to cry, being told not to show emotion because you're going to be a girl, and all the sexism obviously latent in that. But I think for me, I've really needed to redefine what it means to be strong. Because a lot of time the message that we receive is to not express or to not cry, quite literally, out of fear of failure or out of fear of being labeled as weak. And so oftentimes the conversations I have with myself or with clients is to really break it down and saying, like, if you're telling me that strength is doing something that's difficult, let's have that as a baseline, right? Then if you're also telling me that it's difficult for you to express because all these messages that you receive, you have to be the protector for your family, you have to provide for your family, all these different things that we hear. Being able to then express in addition to doing those things, that sounds like strength to me.
Right.
So we can redefine what it means to be strong. And I think that's a message that I've learned from Black psychology, to really look at the work of one of my mentors, the godfather of Black psychology, Dr. Joseph White, who really reshaped the field of looking at a strength-based approach.
Yeah.
So for Black men, and as a young Black boy, knowing what power I have to own my own story and to be able to express that.
Yeah.
To know that people are actually going to love me more when I can open up.
And be vulnerable and transparent and honest about your feelings.
Absolutely.
I mean, to echo most of what you said, I mean, it's never been taught to me that it's okay to express it. You know, it could be tolerated at times, but it wasn't encouraged. And I'm also of Jamaican descent, so there's an added level of weakness in showing emotion. Being stoic is really the ideal masculine disposition. So I know that I've had emotions because I could identify them, and later on finding out that I'm an empath, which is a whole other level of shutting down feelings, especially when you're an empath, and that means that you also take on the emotions of people around you. Correct. So now you're trying to figure out what's going on with you, but you're also affected by the room. So now you're closing out all of that emotion. And then the other part of it is just I grew up in the Bronx, and being in that environment, there actually were ramifications for being perceived as soft. Right. So there's another layer of not just being strong, so to say, and stoic in your household, but on the street now you have to put on an extra layer of bravado. Sure. You know, you don't want anyone to mess with you. So I think the biggest thing is that, you know, we don't come into this world defined as men. We're children. We're learning. We're going through these emotions, and not having the bandwidth in the room to just express ourselves, it leaves us stunted for ourselves, for our relationships. We, you know, just expressing to your partner how you feel, because you're not in tune with saying I'm sad. Yeah, you know,
not being in tune or being taught that it's okay to actually name that emotion. Right.
Yeah. Right. So, yeah.
For my next question, I think it's important to also discuss, how can we make our community safe? How can we create these safe spaces and conversations for Black men, women, people of color to be able to have these thoughts out loud?
I think it starts with what we're doing right now, to be honest. We're normalizing these conversations. We're putting them out there just along the same lines of any other topic of conversation. And when you can talk about something, when you can have the awareness within yourself, that then allows and kind of gives permission to have the rest of the community feel empowered to do the same. And so I think like we started with, we pour so much into the camp and the community of Know Your Rights that it's also possible at the same time for the camp to pour into ourselves.
And community can mean a couple of things, right? Community can mean your friend group. Community can mean your classmates. Community can mean your work environment. It could be your partnership. And I think, like you said, just to kind of echo what you're saying, just creating an open line of communication is super important. Communication is very hard. How do you create a moment for yourself to be mindful? Mine is my Apple Watch. My watch reminds me to be mindful.
Yes.
And take breath. Take a deep breath to breathe. So, like, literally, my Apple Watch reminds me, because at time to time, I will be consumed with the day-to-days of what I do. Oh, and I also have a grateful alarm. I have an alarm that goes off at 7:26 every day, and it usually comes on right when I need it. And whether I'm saying thank you to the Most High, or I am just breathing, or thanking myself for breath, or just being or holding my heart and just giving myself grace or compassion, that is how I choose to be mindful. But what does it look like for you guys?
So at times when I'm at my healthiest, it's at my workout time. I think I used to allocate that quite religiously, and I think during the pandemic some of that shifted, but and gotten back on track. But I think what has actually happened, due to what I said, I came across as far as understanding. Luckily, I was in therapy to pinpoint, oh, that's anxiety you're experiencing. Right. You have tightness in your chest, and you're getting cold sweats when you're, okay. So now I adjusted my threshold, and I'm more in tune with when I start feeling the pressures of everything that's happening, and I slow down unapologetically. So even if something has to get done, from a professional standpoint, just like you said, from achieving, oh, I know I have to get this done. The world's not going to end. If I have to apologize for something, I'll apologize for it. You're going to get over it. Because I'm no longer sacrificing myself for everyone else outside, because I never spent the time caring about myself the way that I did about everyone else.
That's right.
So
that's right. Yeah. For me, like I said, mindfulness is about being still, and the moments of mindfulness for me that most important is beginning of the day and the end of the day.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'd do that.
Being married now for about a year and a half, being able to wake up with my wife and just saying good morning, being able to then say good night, that mindfulness of, like, this is how I choose to start my day, and I choose to end my day with peace. Knowing that I can wake up in the morning, tap back into that feeling of peace the night before. In the morning, I can move forward intentionally with mindfulness, really grounding myself in gratitude and love. Fun fact, research about gratitude actually helps improve our immune systems.
Really?
So when we think about one of the hot takes and hot words in the last 2+ years, immune systems, right? People taking all these wellness shots and all that good stuff, and myself included, but when we can be grateful, taking that time to be mindful, that actually is going to help boost our immune systems. And a good thing about gratitude is it's free.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's really true, because when I give myself that moment, I instantly feel better physically. It's crazy. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so the last thing I want to do before we leave today, I want each of us to say something to the listeners that are listening about therapy or grace or whatever, but something that has to do with mental wellness. One thing that you want to tell them from your own experiences that you would like to share with them to try to get them on board to start their healing process.
I think the most powerful phrase that's been spoken to me that I didn't realize had value was, how are you doing? And not how are you doing connected to your family, not to your career. Even having someone actually, when I start to respond, say, no, how are you doing? And actually allowing me to say, I'm actually not doing well. And I don't think, again, to go off of what we were speaking, I don't think that in the way that I'm taught in society that growing up, it was okay as a man not to be okay. You're supposed to handle it. And there's power in having someone that is there for you, not because they're related to you, not because your career helps them out, but having a therapist and someone that's just focused on my well-being has been just, I mean, it's beyond words. I don't know how to express it other than I think that it's probably one of the best relationships that I could have.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow. So I would say it's going to be a longer sentence because
it's fine.
Not necessarily the shortest.
It's fine.
That mental health is real, and that you deserve the same amount of joy that you so freely give to others.
I think if I had to close this out, I would say invest in your mental freedom. It is important to give yourself the grace, the compassion that you deserve to be free. And freedom starts with your mind, then your body, and your soul will be fed. So invest in that. Whatever it takes, invest in your mental freedom.
I'm Karl Ferguson.
I'm Alicia Pamphile.
And I'm Dr. Milo Dodson.
And we know our rights.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Know Your Rights Camp podcast. And if you like what you hear, like, subscribe, and share.